Good morning, guys. You're live with Bubba Da Vinci. It is Tuesday morning. It is a very chilly Tuesday morning here in the Midwest. Um, been watching the weather, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. It looks like we have new tropical storms getting ready to come in, and I was actually just checking because Trainer Club and I are made the decision to go ahead and travel this weekend. Everything looks like it's going to be okay. So we're going to Arlington, Virginia, or Arrington, Arrington, not Arlington, but Arrington, which is up in the mountains, about 2.5 hours directly west of like Richmond, Virginia. And there's been a significant amount of rain and storms and things going into that area. And we've been trying to figure out what we're going to what the plan is. If you guys remember, we've been going to the events and we were going to have a booth there and a bunch of other things, but multiple of our partners have been hit by the devastation that's going on after tropical storm prior Hurricane Helene. And apparently, I have been saying the name wrong the entire time. So that's interesting. There you go. And so I've been saying Helen, but it's apparently Helene. And it's good to know these things and correct yourself. So, but if you guys have not been paying attention, that the devastation, I mean, the death count is over 150 people, with hundreds still missing. There are still areas, Asheville and areas around Asheville, Chimney Rock, Black Mountain, things like that are still have no power. It's getting very desperate over there. The amount of devastation and loss of livestock and animals, which, I was talking with someone yesterday, and living in farming country, you lose a couple of cattle, you lose a horse, you lose a dog, and people are very I was going to say hard, but they're not. Hard is probably not the right word, because it's not like they don't care for the animals. It's just in farm or ranching life, it's what happens. But when you get to the cities and you get to people that live in the outdoors, but it's not a way of life, meaning that you're not raising cattle for slaughter or raising goats or pigs to harvest or sell. Excuse me. People take it a lot more personally. And, watching the news and watching different channels and things like that, and people being completely broken up because they've lost all their animals. And people here are kind of like, oh, well, it happens. But it breaks my heart, because you could tell how hard it's hitting these people, and it's a cumulative effect, meaning that you've just lost your home, you've just lost your car, you've just lost your town. A lot of these people, they've lost their way of living. I was watching a report on one guy, and he lost his farm. His farm's completely flooded. He's going to lose his hay crop, so that's done, and lost a bunch of his animals. His family farm's been in the family for I think he said like 80 or 90 years, and he doesn't know if he's going to be able to keep it, because the company he works for also washed away. And they're going to be declaring that he was already told that they're declaring bankruptcy, and they're laying all those people off. because obviously if the company doesn't exist anymore, if if the buildings and the company doesn't exist anymore, and they say they may be able to get insurance to cover it, but what a lot of people don't realize is Asheville and Chimney Rock and those areas up there, they've never had a flood like this. These people don't have flood insurance. And whether or not the US government will step in, FEMA will step in and offer up any sort of compensation, I think is still completely up in the air. I've not read anything online on whether or not there will be any compensation for these people. And we're talking billions of dollars in damage. I mean, there's so many videos out there. Again, I challenged you guys, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, just go on Google and Google it. The number of videos is just out there and it's just crazy. I was watching a video this morning that someone sent me of one of the towns that were there, and the flooding was coming up and it was going down. I think it was either 140 or 40. And the road now looks like a river, and there was people inside a building trying to stay out, trying to being inside the building was going to save them. All glass waterfront. And there were people outside, and people were standing at the door, and the door was locked, and a big wave of water came down because they apparently had opened another valve, another overflow section on the thing, and the wave came down, and the lady and the two kids flew through the plate glass window, and the water just started coming in, and everybody's screaming, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just horrible. It was like watching the Titanic movie. Water just coming in over the glass, people trying to escape, and they're all, people are getting up on the roofs. But I don't think the U.S. has seen this large of loss of life on a disaster like this, at least in decades. I mean, we're used to hurricanes and things like that, and you get out the warnings, and there's always people that pass. Tornadoes, hurricane. I mean, the tornadoes that came and tore up my area this year and destroyed a lot of houses, killed 2. Actually, that's not right. Killed 4 during that tornado. The reason I said 2 originally is 2 people were just killed in the tornado and the damage that was there, and then 2 suffered major injuries, 2 seniors from 2 different parts of town, and then they passed a little bit later. So the death toll was 4. But that's kind of what we typically deal with. The massive fires we have here in the U.S., freezing weather, things like that. If the numbers hit double digits, we're pretty much up in arms. Katrina, I can Google that. I don't know what the death count was on Katrina. I'm just curious now. I wish I could talk while I type, but I don't remember. Okay. So Katrina was a major disaster. 1,833 people died in Katrina. And in 1900, it actually was the worst one. 12,000 people died in 1900 in the Galveston hurricane. So we're not there. But here's the thing: is although 1,800 people died in Katrina, Katrina was a hurricane that had massive flooding and had massive ramifications. Right, massive ramifications. The people that just died, 150 plus right now, is the current count. And again, over 100 missing currently. What's cool is I actually set up an extra monitor now, and I now have access to Google as of yesterday. I can actually don't have to give you bad facts and off my memory. I can actually look it up now. This was flooding that could have been controlled. I mean, we're talking biblical rains that hit these areas, and the decisions made with very little warning to open those floodgates, causing massive damage downhill. And so these areas, and now mudslides are happening because people know the geography of like Tennessee and those areas. The trees there are not like here in Iowa. They don't have deep root systems. You get super strong winds up in those mountains, and those trees just topple. Now you have saturated earth and winds. They're having major mudslides. They're having all kinds of issues. The aftermath of this is going to be pretty bad. So anyway, all that being said, a lot of the vendors we work with, and I'm doing more calls today, live in those areas. A lot of them are from the Smoky Mountain area. I know 5 of the vendors that actually are in Asheville. So I don't know, they will not be participating in this event. We have all kinds of people all over Tennessee and North Carolina that we've been working with, and we've been talking about the economy, but talking about insult to injury. So this is going to kind of snowball into the whole topic today. Insult to injury, which is the economy was already affecting them, right? We've been talking for a month now about how all of them are coming to us and talking to us about their plans and how this is hurting them and everything else. One of the companies we've been working with that we were getting ready to launch something for them for Christmas no longer has a warehouse. Their warehouse has been completely flooded and their product is now ruined. And so I'm knocking on wood that they have some sort of business insurance. We haven't gotten there. You don't go and start, pounding people with questions when they're having this kind of devastation. But, all their products were warehoused there, and now all those products are gone, and so, while we're going to help them and they don't necessarily need these services, I'm hoping the insurance will make them whole, and then it won't be, they'll be better off than they would be if they just had a complete loss. I mean, this could close down this family's business completely. So anyway, we decided not to do a booth at this event. Trainer Club, Billy and I have a couple of meetings and we still have to go. I'm in and out for a day. I'm literally jumping on a plane Friday morning, 5 a.m. I'll be landing in Washington, D.C. around 9:30 or 10 a.m. We'll do the 2-hour drive, be there at noon, put in 5 hours worth of work, crash, get up the next morning, do another 5 hours, and then I'm back to DC and back home the next night. Trainer Club will stay another day. He'll be there one extra afternoon or a day. The goal is to get a little more content so we can end our year with this stuff. But again, pardon me, economy bad, weather all this year. I mean, I've been personally affected. You guys know those stories, and I'm still not done. It's the temperature here last night and today. We're going to be down in the 40s tonight. And I'm already wearing fleece. I still I've got all that wood chopped and everything else, and I got to get it in, and I got to get the porch done. But the company still hasn't come back and leveled the dirt because all the rain we had backed them up. And so I'm on a list, but I'm on a low priority list compared to other people that had the same problem as I did, which has to get their concrete done and their backfill in. So someone like me to get the dirt leveling and everything done, I'm on hold. So just kind of a weird sort of thing. And then, you take all this and you move it into kind of what I talked about today, which kind of, to me, was very important and everything else. And I've talked to you guys about being prepared. Pardon me. 1 second. I'm sorry. I think we all know that I've been sick the last couple of days. Okay. Way too hot. I love my daughter. Whenever she makes this stuff, I don't know why she puts it in the microwave. in order to make sure it's super duper hot for me for the hour. But these cups are so well insulated that, I mean, that just scalded my throat. Anyway, love you, daughter, because I know you're watching. All right, so there's been since June, there's been a lot of back and forth with the Longshoremen's Union. Now there's two distinct unions here in the United States. Now, I'm assuming everybody knows what a longshoreman is, but a longshoreman, the long and the short of it, is. I'm sorry, that tickled me. I know that was a total dad thing. That was not really that funny. But a longshoreman is the men and women who work at the ports, who unload and help move merchandise that comes into the country or going out of the country, all those shipping containers and everything else. Those are the longshoremen. And there are, from the Gulf up the East Coast, there's like 15 or 20 ports. These are major entry ports for a lot of different products. And then you have the West Coast, which I think only has about 8 or 10. I can Google that too. I need to learn how to type and do things at the same time. So it looks like the West Coast shipping ports, container ports. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 9. There's only 9 ports on the West Coast. And most of them are where you would think: Port of Seattle, Port of Tacoma, Port of Portland, Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Long Beach, San Diego. Okay. They have their own unions. And so products can still come onto that coast, because right now they are not the ones that are threatening to strike. It is the ports that are in the East Coast ports and the Gulf Coast ports. There's 5 in the Gulf Coast, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 ports on the East Coast, which is where a majority of our merchandise comes in. So basically a total of 19 ports, right? And so the entire that union is threatened. Actually, I believe it went on strike as of midnight of last night. Now, how long this strike? So since June, they've been asking for what some would call an unreasonable amount of money from the ports or whoever. I guess I don't know who they're directly negotiating with. But they were asking for a 80% increase in their wages. And their biggest concern is that, like a lot of Asia and everything else, the U.S. has been trying to go to an automated system, which would mean that the manpower would go down, the physical manpower would go down significantly, because the automation would take in the data, the cranes and everything else would be automated. They would unload the ships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, this is where, 50,000 people make their living. Now, the starting wage as a longshoreman is already like $80K a year. And with enough overtime, I'm hearing the average worker with overtime makes just under $200,000 a year. Yeah, that's good money. Okay. Now, don't get me. I mean, that's, I'm not saying that it's not hard work or anything else, but that's good money. If I were in my 20s again, I'd probably become a longshoreman, right? Because, that's some significant cash. All right. But now they're asking for an 80% increase in their wages. um, and benefits and things like that. Now, I was told that they came to the other side, the non-union side came to the table and agreed to 50%, and that was not good enough for the union, and so they walked away. Now, 50% means that the starting wage would be 120 grand a year to become a longshoreman. Um, you know, wow. I'm telling you, blue collar work is getting up there. I mean, that's a lot of money, 120 grand a year working on container ships and things like that. Which, probably means that the guys that, you're going to have people making, could be upwards to three and a half, 350 to $400,000 with overtime. Now, yeah. Now, the concern is what we've been talking about. Economy's slowed down. People aren't doing things. China's trying to bolster their economy. We're still overpacked, or we have product in our marketplace that is post-COVID inventory that they haven't been able to get rid of. The cycle's already all thrown off. Now, with 50,000 union workers, longshoremen union workers going on strike, you're talking about a loss of up to half a billion $500 million a day. That's the economic impact. $500 million a day. And how that strike's going to affect now, it's not going to affect anything if the first couple of days, but things like consumables. The reason I put in there, do you know where your bananas are, is because a lot of product like bananas and fruit and paper products and things like that, daily consumables, come in through those ports. And after about 4 or 5 days, you're going to see prices skyrocket in the stock market, in your local supermarkets, for the products that come in there, because they won't be moving. That stuff won't be coming in. And then after about 2 weeks, you'll start suffering on other products, car parts, things like that. I mean, you're coming into the Christmas season. You're coming into the times when everybody's should be buying product to get ready to sell for the holidays. And those products are usually starting to ship about now. We have multiple of our partners that we're talking to, that we're going to see this weekend, that they've already been notified that their products may not be coming in for Christmas, because if the strike goes on more than a couple of days, the government and everybody else will start prioritizing product. Meaning, if I'm a business owner and I'm trying to ship car parts, I'm buying them. I'm having them made in another country, Africa, any place in Asia, things like that, and they're being shipped over. They could end up being held, so other more prioritized product can get on the ships that are shipping in when the strike is over, which prolongs everything and causes a bunch of issues. So, I've been warning my friends for the last 2 days, and I didn't bring it up to you guys or anything else. It's like, if you are and I might have mentioned it a little bit, but if you guys are a big consumer of any sort of regular type of product, like I told you, my household, toilet paper. I went to Sam's Club a couple of days ago and stocked up, but I'm going to go again today and buy a couple more big packs. I was still recovering from COVID. I used to have a year's supply of toilet paper in my basement. Now, I'm glad I didn't, with all the flooding and the issues we've had and everything else. That would have been bad, but COVID, depleted my supply, and I just have been too lazy and really not thinking about it to stock back up. Now, do I think that toilet paper and those sorts of products are going to be incredibly hard to get? Potentially. If they don't come to an agreement and it goes 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you're going to start seeing problems again. And I just don't want to be paying, trying to find toilet paper that's constrained. You can buy one pack or whatever they ended up doing, and shelves were empty. I don't want to get into the panic buying, which once this hits like a week or 10 days, people are going to start panic buying. It happens every snowstorm. It's like no one prepares. You don't go buy batteries. You don't buy fuel. You don't buy a bunch of things. A big storm comes in. Everybody's running to Home Depot. Everybody's running to the gas station. Everything's off the shelf because our society has moved to a mechanism that I just lost the name of it. Where the on-demand system. So it used to be for anybody over the age of 30, if you went to your local supermarket, if you had a 60,000 square foot supermarket, 20 to 30,000 square feet of that supermarket would be sales space. That would be your front end where you went and shopped. The other 40,000 square feet would be warehouse space. And you used to be able to walk through there and they would stock a week's worth of store products inside that warehouse so they could replenish as they go. As our technology and AI and everything has gotten better, we've gone to what's called an on-demand supply system. You walk into your supermarket or your Walmart or your Target and you pick something off the shelf and you take it up to the register and you ring it through. Every sale registers the delta of that product in a computer, and in a DC, a distribution center, somewhere within a 5-hour drive from you, they're doing pick and pulls and loading a truck of the stuff that you sold. And very little back stock. Most stores probably only have a 1% overflow of any product that they sell at high volume. And you'll see that on the top shelf. And they all have really small warehouses in the back for bulk items, really big, large items that you can't stock on the floor. But it's now like a 90-10, where it used to be a 40-60, 40% sales space, 60% warehouse. With DCs and on demand, it goes to a 80 or 90% sales space and a 10% warehouse. And everything else comes in. So that's why when you drive past your supermarket or whatever, there's trucks coming in at night and you have nighttime stocking crews, or you have mornings, because all the last days of sales is all being pick and pulled, goes on a truck goes out at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, drives to its local destination. They're unloading the truck and restocking the shelves and go. When the system breaks down, whether the computers aren't working, whether the demand vastly overwhelms the system, and or the DC isn't getting new product itself, the system collapses, which is what happened during COVID. Instead of the longshoremen striking, COVID said you can't go to work. And so all the products started backing up. Customs was backed up. Everything was backed up. Nothing was going to the DC. There was no backstock in the stores. Those DCs sent out everything that they had, and then it was just empty. The on-demand system has made it where it is almost impossible, if a natural disaster happens, God forbid, a major power outage, anything like that happens, that we would be completely stuck from being able to manage anything. And so like I said, I've just been warning people. It's like, hey, if you need diapers, if you need formula, if you guys regularly eat rice and you guys go through 5 or 10 pounds of rice a week, if you guys use toilet paper excessively, if you guys do a lot of laundry, it's like, just go to Sam's Club and Costco before this gets ridiculous and buy, if you're frugal and you don't want to, you don't have a lot of storage space, buy a 1 month supply. Make sure you have enough to get you through 30 days. And you should be able to do that calculation. If you're like me and I have the space, hold on. Go buy a 6 month or a year supply, whatever you think is there. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm looking at all these live reports, and even 5 minutes ago, the strike began last night and people started walking off at midnight and started striking at midnight. It looks like, more and more people are walking off the docks. Now, the U.S. government could get involved, right? I don't know. It's an election year. If I were Biden and team, I would think that would be a smart thing to do. I don't remember what the law is, but there is something that the president can do. I think it was Taft. I don't want to spend a lot of time since I can't obviously stream and type at the same time. This is going to have to be something I get used to. Again, and the screen is way over here. I need to find a better setup for this. There's a way for the president to give that they can force the two sides to have a cooling period. I want to say it's 60 days. And they've done this with the airlines and everything else. When things start getting out of hand, they can invoke this policy, and both sides have to have a cooling down period where one side goes back to work temporarily or goes back with a limited force to not cripple everything while that cooling down period is they're supposed to go back to the bargaining table and work on things. Since this is just getting started, I don't think I can't imagine that action would be taken. I mean, if they did, I would say it would be more of a political ploy to garner support for, the Democratic side that they're doing something. I mean, this is such a bad time for all this to be happening. I mean, when you're looking at, what's going on in Beirut, you're looking at what just happened with our storms. You look at the Israelis, when I said what's going on in Beirut, if you didn't know, the Israelis okayed ground forces going into Lebanon, crossing over and doing limited ground actions. So you just had one country invade another country. They're not bombing each other anymore. You've sent people in. You have Ukraine, who went into Russia and encircled 2 military camps and captured a bunch of Russians in Russian territory. Great planning, by the way. It's very strategic, amazing. You have the U.S. government sending a couple of $1 billion over to the Ukraine to support this stuff. You have, so I'm just kind of trying to look at, I'm having a hard time finding anything today, but, all this stuff being said, there's just a lot going on there. And, somebody pointed out to me yesterday, well, look, all the markets are starting to rebound. Okay. Are they really starting to rebound, or because Japan and China and everybody else are putting stimulus packages into their stock markets? We talked about it, $114 billion. Of course, the Chinese stock market is going to rebound a little bit. Of course, they rebound, and you're going to see some residual here in the United States. Plus, they just slashed a bunch of interest rates and things like that. And I love everybody's optimism, how they're like, oh, look, everything's turning around. All right. Anybody can artificially inflate anything. If if you can pump money into your business, you can bring a bunch of new product in and bring in some customers, and it makes it look like things have turned around for your business. But at the end of the day, that money is not free. And unless that brought in more business than the cost of that money that you put in there, you're still at a loss. It's a temporary thing. Come talk to me in 30 days or in 90 days after the Christmas season, and then tell me, tell me if the market really did anything. Because right now, again, the Fed cutting interest rates, they said they cut them to bolster, confidence. Inflation in Europe falls below 2% and opens the way for faster rate cuts. Okay. It's just like all this stuff. Japanese central bank, underpins optimism for growth after a massive multi-billion-dollar stimulus package has been invoked. Okay, that's great. It's like, but what everybody keeps forgetting is that's the government printing money. That's the government printing money. And at some point, that catches up with you. They aren't solving the problem. They're printing more cash and putting it into the system. Not sustainable. It's not sustainable. That's not real growth. Now, don't get me wrong. It has worked in the past. And when I say it's worked in the past, yes, it can stimulate things. The government will come up with packages to give out money to start new businesses, even though those businesses have no chance of surviving. Post COVID, when like you guys know, I own a restaurant, and it's actually been closed for a while. I was very frustrated because post COVID, to bolster the market, because so many restaurants had closed, the government was giving out money for anybody willing to get into the restaurant business. And it was like they were printing money. They were giving away, $50, $70, $100,000 to start a new restaurant business. I personally know people that went and started 3 or 4 or 5 restaurants, each one under a different name, so they could collect that free stimulus money. They did put money into those businesses, but they didn't put the whole $100K into it. They threw in about $20,000 or $30,000, got a short-term rental, went and got a business license, put it up there, put in some very big product. 6 months later, I think you had to show that you were operating or had like a 6 or a 9 month operating expense, and then you could write it off. And all of them basically closed down. These 2 people closed down all the restaurants, and they walked away with about $300,000 of free government money because it wasn't planned. The government throws stimulus money at things, not actually coming up with a way to measure how it actually affects anything long term. And people have learned that there are so many loopholes in this crap that they just take advantage of it. You do whatever they have to do, then they take the money and then they shut the shit down. And then you're back in the same boat. People that took jobs there. And that was one of the big things. It made a local paper here where, the guy who did this, he hired a bunch of local kids and everything else. And when he closed down the business, actually didn't pay any of this youth. He paid them for the first 4 or 5 months and rotated them through and everything else. And as he knew he was getting ready to close down the business, he kept telling them, "Oh, we're going to a 30-day payment plan now, and I'll pay you at the end of 30 days. And then he ended up closing the businesses down, never paying these kids, because it was an incorporated company. So that means it's an independent company. It wasn't an LLC. That business took the brunt of it, and they could sue the businesses, but the business went bankrupt. And so he ended up with the money, and these kids ended up not doing anything. And it wasn't just kids, it was seniors. It was a lot of people that got screwed over by these businesses. And I can't believe he still walks around town sometimes, because I know people just want to beat him with a baseball bat because he did a lot of people wrong, including other businesses where he opened net 30 and net 60 accounts for receiving merchandise and things like that, and then declared those in the bankruptcy. So that, again, my point being that this artificial money that they're pumping in and the things that they're doing, they're not solving the problems that got us there. They're creating a landslide that, just like this guy, he's a great example. They're playing the system. It usually ends up hurting more people than it ends up helping. And the people that it does end up helping usually are the big corporations. It's the mom and the pops that end up suffering. So, I'm hoping that I'm seriously hoping that this longshoreman strike gets settled quickly. I'm completely hoping to be wrong. Okay, so I have people sending me stuff, which is really good. Helene dropped a whopping 40 trillion. T with a trillion with a T. 40 trillion gallons of rain on the South in the last week. It's 40 trillion gallons of rain. It's absolutely mind-blowing to think of that much water being dumped over a couple of days in an area. It's no wonder there's so much devastation and damage. There's no one's system is ecosystem is meant to handle that much rain. And then forget that. But you also have to look at infrastructure. I mean, our infrastructures are not meant to handle, as we build, so many people, part of the problem with a lot of these areas is they're built on floodplains. They only get they get storms that are serious every 20 or 30 years. Every year, 20, 30 years, everybody gets, they remember that they built their shit on a floodplain and everything floods. And then what happens is they lose their homes and the insurance either won't pay or they pay out and they decide they're going to move. And 5 or 10 years later, everybody's memories are very short. And then they're selling that property again and they can make it perk. So how it works is, in order to build in a lot of states in a certain area, you have to have the property get tested and it has to perk. And what you can do is, when you have consistent rainfall or moisture and you go out there and you dig your testing hole and you fill it, what'll happen is it won't perk. I mean, the water won't percolate down into the ground, and they'll tell you can't build there. But builders have become very smart, and they'll wait until you have a couple of years, dry years, and then they will go back out and have them test again. And if you've had low volume rain for several years, you pour a bucket of water in there and it goes, and it sucks right up there. And they go, yep, it percolates. You can build here. And people build on these floodplains. Well, then you get a big storm that comes in and you get a really wet year and the ground gets saturated, and then you get a massive rain and you get flooding, and everybody goes, oh my God, I didn't know. Well, shit. Go back and look at your geographical and meteorological history before you build someplace, and take a look and say, well, shit, this is a 20-year floodplain or a 100-year floodplain. And if I build here, the possibility of my property being torn to shit is probably pretty high. And when I lived in California, I had a couple of friends that, in a like a 10-year period of time while I was in junior high and high school there, that their family's cabins washed down the river like 3 or 4 times. Now, they had flood insurance, so the insurance company would pay for it, and they'd build a new one, and then 7 years later, it would go down there because they built in a floodplain. And I was just like, even back then in junior high, I'm like, what are these people, idiots? But again, property doesn't perk. And a lot of these, we're so quick to want to build and develop everything that people will build in the stupidest areas. Now, I'm not saying this happened to all of these people. Asheville's a very old city. They've never had this kind of flooding, but they've never had 40 trillion gallons of water dumped into their reservoirs where they were potentially going to break and overflow and then have to have all that stuff flood down there. But sure as shit, they know now. I can guarantee you everybody's kind of looking at stuff now and going, what are we going to do the next time this happens? If there's a next time, I don't think some of these cities and businesses are going to survive this. And I do think Morning Farm Don. Yeah, dude. Houston, so much reclaimed land and so much of it's built on the floodplain. Half of Houston, if you went back 50, 60 years or 70 years, most of where Houston is built used to be like swamp area. It was the filter. It was the place that water would filter before it went into the Gulf, right? And it's backfilled. Well, the problem with that, the good news is they don't have earthquakes, because if they had earthquakes, when that shake happened, those buildings would just sink. But that doesn't happen because their water table underneath Houston is so high that when they get massive storms or hurricane comes in there, it becomes a giant canal. Farm Don can testify to that. He's lived there long enough. It's a freaking canal. Everybody should have a freaking cut. Yeah. You should basically, everybody should have a kayak, just out there. And when you wake up one morning and it's floating, you had a big rainstorm, and then you just vanish your way to freaking work. Right. And nobody, and it's also, Houston is built, like this. So you get to, when you're going down there and you're getting to some of those low areas on the highways and the roads, it becomes a swimming pool. It gets deep quick. And again, ridiculous. But, you build on a floodplain. Austin, where I'm from, we have two rivers. They kind of cross and we're in the middle. It's a little bit different, but when you went to New Braunfels or places down there, it's in a canyon. And they would have 100-year storms where the water was 15 or 20 feet up the canyon walls. And if you were stuck in that canyon, or your house, because your house was in that canyon, dude, you were like at the bottom of it would just flow over you, because water is going to go where water is going to go. 40 trillion gallons of water. Where the F are you going to go? Right through town, dude. Because those reservoirs are always built at the top of a town. Watch any disaster movie, and it's always true. Go to any place where you see a dam or a reservoir and go stand on the top of it and look downstream. And what ends up happening is everybody wants to live by the river. Nobody thinking that thing's ever going to flood. Everything's going to flood, and go out there and just stand at the top and look. And you'll see all these little towns and businesses built down there. And, at that point, what you do is you say, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to be able to buy that property and that property and that property, because that house is just going to be sailing down the river. And if you go look on TikTok, that's exactly what happened. And I'm not excited about this. It blows my mind. You were watching, some of these videos are of entire buildings that got ripped up and they're just floating down the river. Animals struggling because they're floating down the river. And it came up so fast because that's what happens. Is once they open that up, you're talking about billions of gallons of water coming down. It's like a giant ocean surge hitting you, and then it just pushes everything downhill. And there's no time, because it rises so quickly, to get out of it. So people are just saving themselves. They're not saving their animals. They're not saving their goods. They're not doing anything like that. And again, most of these people that lived down the reservoir from this stuff did not have flood insurance. That just blows my mind. So right now, the entire Appalachian Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, all those areas out there are devastated, guys. Um, if you can do anything to help, please do. I mean, I personally know just from some of these vendors and people I know that have lost everything. Now, I lost a lot, and I'm now and I felt bad for me and my my financial situation because insurance wasn't paying for everything and everything else. And now I feel ridiculous for even feeling that way because what happened to us in our area with our tornadoes and what's going on here is nowhere near what's happening there. My building is still here. Slid off the foundation a little bit, had some cracks, but it was livable. And even if it had taken my building, everything else around it, my house, I mean, my cars, my equipment, all that other stuff, for the most part, I can still live on this property. These people are going to have to worry about mold. They're going to have to worry about mucking mud out of their places for 6 months or a year. And we're coming into the winter season. Asheville gets snow. They go below freezing. All that area freezes. And we're months away from it. This is not, heed my warning and start thinking maybe, something. I'm actually going to start, screw Australia. Yeah, no one. I've got like 60 people that have talked about, or have signed the petition. Apparently, no one cares about going to Australia. That's fine. I think maybe I should divert my attention to figuring out ways to help these people because coming from a place that gets cold and we're already down to 40 degrees, we're going to be at 40 degrees, 42 degrees tonight. So that's 10 degrees above freezing. I don't know what the temperatures are going to be like. I'm actually going to do Asheville right now. When those temperatures in Asheville, come on, buddy. Come on, Valencia. Think. There we go. Plus Asheville. That's weird. When there it goes. All right. So luckily they're not going to be getting any more rain. They're hitting the 40s and 50s at night. So that's good. That's good. As long as they don't get any more rain and things like that, they have a ton of cleanup before they get to freezing. And then once they hit the freezing point, it is going to be super difficult to clean that stuff up. And it's going to be horrible for anybody that's in these mountains and these that was in this area of destruction. And so, and it's going to be bad for animals. It's going to be bad for everybody. So keep those guys in your prayers, guys. Prayers for anybody that's out there dealing with this crap. Prayers for all these people that are in these war-torn areas, and big prayers that the longshoremen and the people they're negotiating with can both come to their senses and find some middle ground. Let me tell you, 50% increase in pay, I think, is great. It's like a 6-year contract. Don't push the economy. And the problem is they know that they've got everybody by the short and curlies. And they keep saying that. I actually have a video of the head of the union going out there and saying, we don't have to give up. We know we have them. We have the pressure. Yeah, you do. Shitty economy. Everybody's already suffering, and you're going to hold up, our supplies in 20 ports on the East Coast. Somebody needs to Jimmy Hoffa this guy. It's like, you can't hobble. You can't, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do and you want more money, and whether you deserve it or not, that's debatable. I mean, you're already making 80 grand a year, wanting to go up to $160,000 a year. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get into that stuff, but you don't hobble a country in a bad economic situation to do that. Right. That's some dirty shit. I'm not a fan of unions. I think unions had a place and a time, and it's this sort of stuff that drives me crazy. Instead of being reasonable and saying, okay, what we want to do is we want to, we'll take a 50% increase, which is still, most people I know are happy with a 2, 3, 4% raise. Now everybody wants a 50% raise. Again, where the frick is the money coming from? Pretty soon we're going to be paying, McDonald's workers $60 an hour, and it's going to be a $35 cheeseburger. Just all right. But anyway, say prayers. We don't need this right now. With all the other shit going on in the world, we just don't need this. Everybody should just go and play some World of Warcraft or play some WoW and veg out and chill out. Don't do that because we need you to work. I'm just kidding. But that's kind of everybody's solution, right? It's either you bury your head or you you fight this stuff. God, I hope this election's over soon. We got to get back on track. All right. Hey, wifey, it looks like I did some reading yesterday, and it looks like the only thing you going over to that territory is going to do is we can still go back. It didn't say how we go back, but you can still go back to those old territories. But it doesn't make the content irrelevant. It just isn't as relevant anymore. You can still go back and do all those old quests, but when you go the old path, you had to build faction and all this other stuff to get certain new quests. And basically what happens is all that storyline has been filled in for you. And so when you go over there, you just won't be getting, you'll still get your experience. You just won't be getting the things that used to start the next quest. The next quest will show up, but it'll just be because you went over there. It's like all the quests from the first three or four expansions are basically auto completed, so you can move into the next storyline. While they aren't officially completed, they're just checked off as completed, so that way, again, you can move into the storyline. So, Farm Don, text me and let me know if like Wednesday evening would be good for you. Same thing with you, wifey. I know Farm Don and I are both Central Standard Time. Wifey's an East Coast time. So, wifey, I don't know how late you have family, how late you could play, and what's good for you. But it would be cool to play tomorrow because on Friday I get on a plane and I'd love to learn how to get together and play. Farm Done, if you have time tonight, she's at 15. So if we can try to, whatever time you get home tonight, if we can get on for like an hour, we can probably get up to 15 and go do that quest. So we're in the same area as she is and we can start off together. All right. Got 2 minutes. I did not tear open a pack yesterday, so I'm going to speed through this real quick. All right. I'm going to see if I can do this. Don't need it. 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 It's weird now that I've got so many. I'm closer to a master pack. I think I like 70 cards or 60 cards that I have left out of 372. That's pretty good. Oh, that is a reverse hollow Mew. I don't think I have that one. Maybe I do. If there's a full hollow and a reverse hollow, I think I needed the reverse. That is a reverse hollow Morgrim. I think I have him, and I've got multiple of this Melmetal. So that has done nothing for me. Open pack 2. Yeah, just text me, Farmed On. Today I'm actually in meetings off and on all day. So, but tonight I have like nothing going on. Okay, there's that. Has anybody seen? I'm gonna text him. I haven't seen Missing O for a while. I hope he's okay. Nimble, Pokey, Froggy did a carton. Kofu got all those. That's a regular Slow King. Oh, Grand Tree. Definitely needed that one. That's pretty. Okay. Have it. Here we go. Whoops. Boo. Have it. Okay. Nothing new there. All right. Well, that's not true. Grand Tree is the only guaranteed card that I have that I need, and then maybe that Mewtwo. Um, and I know I said Mew earlier. I know the difference. I'm just an idiot. Okay. Have it. Have it. Have it. Have it. Have it. Oh, got another Lapras, but I have that already. We've gotten tons of Lacy. Oh, nope, I've got Crab Crawler. I've got Finneon, and I've got Nocturnal Owl. Okay, again, nothing. Last pack. So out of 4, 8 o'clock. I actually did it. I'll finish this up, and then we'll get out of here. Okay. I don't know if you were on. If you're on, we should probably chat this morning. If not, we can chat tonight. That's fine. Well, you would know that I said that if you aren't on. Have it. 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 Do not have it. And knockdown. Okay. So at 2 there. Still have not found the magical card for Billy Boy, but that's okay. We'll get it done. Hey, everybody have a great day. If whether good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, whatever applies to you. Yeah, say those prayers for those people. Let's hope that the Longshoreman event doesn't go bad. Let's say a couple of prayers that the people who are suffering from Helene are being taken care of. We will talk to everybody tomorrow. I think that's it. I think we're gonna have a good